Hello and welcome to Wisdom and Wealth, a channel dedicated to exploring the deeper aspects of life, especially for those of us navigating the second half. Have you ever wondered what it truly means to be human? If so, go ahead and click that like button and consider subscribing to stay updated for our future videos. Have you ever felt a sense of emptiness? It's not a dramatic, loud pain, but a quiet, persistent hum. A subtle ache that seems to surface when you least expect it. Perhaps it's in the silence of your car after a long day at work, or when you look across a city you've strived to conquer, only to feel something hollow beneath the surface. It's that strange sadness that lingers even after you've checked all the boxes: the job, the partner, the house, the goals, the car. Despite achieving what you thought would bring fulfillment, there's still a ghost at the feast, a feeling that something is missing, not outside in the world, but deep within you. This feeling is almost universal, though rarely talked about. What if there was a way to eliminate it? Let's find out together. Modern language might label it as anxiety, burnout, or perhaps even existential dread. But long before psychology gave it these names, the Buddha called it dukkha. This term is often translated simply as suffering, but it encompasses much more than just that. Dukkha is the underlying unease that is woven into the very fabric of life, the persistent sense that something is always slightly off, even in our happiest moments. It is the knowledge that things could always be better, that what we have can be taken from us at any time. It's like a low hum of dissatisfaction. If you find this content valuable, remember to like this video and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth for more insights into navigating life's deeper questions. What is the purpose of all of this struggle? What does it truly mean to be human, beyond the daily grind? It's this quiet ache, that nagging sense of something missing, that pushes us towards the deeper questions. What is it all for? What does it mean to be human? When we seek answers, the world often presents us with a binary choice, a choice so deeply ingrained that we rarely question its validity. On one side, we have what we might call the worldly path: build a career, start a family, make a mark on the world, be someone of value. This path feels tangible, responsible, and grounded in reality. However, beneath the surface often lurks a nagging fear: what if I spend my entire life building, only to realize that I never truly lived? What if my relationships go bad, or the job I work at for decades closes, or I get laid off? On the other side, there's the spiritual path: let go of worldly attachments, meditate, withdraw from the noise of the world, and seek inner stillness. This path feels pure and meaningful. But it too carries its own set of fears. What if I become completely detached from the world? What if I abandon those who need me and shirk my responsibilities? What if I become disconnected from the very relationships that give me meaning? And so, we find ourselves torn. We chase success and material wealth, but feel spiritually lost and unfulfilled. We seek inner peace and tranquility, but feel disconnected from the vibrancy of life. We try to live two separate lives, yet feel whole in neither. What if the conflict isn't between the two paths themselves, but rather in the limiting belief that we must choose only one? What if this entire framework is based on a fundamental misunderstanding? What if the purpose of being human isn't a single, solitary note, but rather a complex symphony, two distinct melodies, the worldly and the ultimate, woven together into something far richer and more beautiful than either could be alone? This is the profound insight that Buddhism offers. It doesn't ask us to reject the world or to retreat from it. Instead, it invites us to see the world more clearly, to live fully in both dimensions simultaneously, engaging in the world with compassion and care, while also awakening to the deeper truths that lie beyond our limited identities, ambitions, and fears. And when these two purposes move together in harmony, life becomes not a dilemma to be solved, but a profound truth to be embodied. It's a path where we are no longer torn in two conflicting directions, but rather a life that is whole, present, and truly free. If this resonates with you, be sure to click that like button and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth for more on this path to wholeness. Let's start with the first layer of purpose, the one that quietly shapes the surface of our daily lives. This is what we might call our worldly purpose. To understand it more clearly, picture a skilled craftsman at his workbench. Observe the way his hands move, not rushed or distracted, but with a calm and focused intention in every gesture. He is not thinking about external praise or chasing after rewards. He is simply present in the moment, honoring the wood, respecting the tools, and giving himself completely to the process. In that moment, there is no audience, no concern for recognition, just the work itself, and the quiet joy of doing it well. This, too, is you, when you gently rock your child back to sleep with tired eyes and a steady heart. When you choose honesty over personal gain, even when no one is watching. When you build something useful, care for someone in need, or offer a small act of generosity. These are not insignificant things, they are deep expressions of presence and connection. In some spiritual circles, there is a tendency to look down upon this level of life, to dismiss it as mere attachment. Let go, they say, all of this is just attachment. But that's a misunderstanding of what the Buddha truly taught. The true teaching is not to reject these things, but to cherish them. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha didn't urge a young man to abandon society or turn away from his relationships. Instead, he offered practical and compassionate guidance on how to be a responsible son, a trustworthy friend, a loving partner, and a just employer. He demonstrated that the path of wisdom does not lie in rejecting the world, but in living in it with clarity, compassion, and a sense of responsibility. That is the key to a happy life, and remember to like this video and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth for more. Still, a legitimate question may arise. Why invest so deeply in these things if everything will inevitably pass away? If all our efforts will one day vanish, if everything we build will eventually crumble into dust, why bother at all? The answer to this lies in the Buddha's teaching on karma, intentional action. Your actions are not meaningless simply because they are impermanent. Their true value is not measured by how long they last, but by the quality of energy they carry. You are not building a permanent monument, you are planting a fragrance into the air, an invisible trace of goodness that moves through the world and touches the lives of others. As the Dhammapada says, the scent of flowers does not go against the wind, nor that of sandalwood, tagera, or jasmine. But the fragrance of the virtuous goes against the wind, the goodness of a person spreads in all directions. That is your true legacy, not the material possessions you own or the titles you carry, but the quiet and powerful force of your kindness. It's in the way you held someone's hand when they were in pain, in the difficult decisions you made when no one would ever know, and in the ripple of trust you left behind. It's a force that is not measured by time, but by truth. Even ancient philosophers in the West understood this concept. The Greeks called it eudaimonia, a kind of flourishing that comes not from fleeting pleasure or superficial success, but from living with virtue and meaning. So yes, this worldly layer of purpose is precious. It gives form and meaning to our lives, reminding us that presence and responsibility are indeed sacred. However, it's not the whole story. Because when we pour all of our identity into our roles, our work, our families, our social status, we begin to cling tightly to these things. And what we cling to inevitably brings suffering. We fear losing what we love, we fear change, we fear failure, and we fear aging. There's a quiet and constant tension that simmers beneath the surface. To be devoted is noble, and to be excellent in your craft is admirable. But excellence alone is not yet freedom. There is a deeper purpose still, one that begins not with building, but with letting go. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. And so, we must delve deeper, beneath the visible layer of what we do, our jobs, our roles, our accomplishments. There lies a quieter, more fundamental layer, not just who we are, but what we think we are. This is the second, deeper layer of human purpose, the ultimate purpose. And it is here that the mind often puts up resistance. A quiet voice arises, whispering, enlightenment? Liberation? That's for monks in robes, meditating on remote mountaintops. I have bills to pay, children to raise, deadlines to meet. My life is too messy for any of that. But this is precisely where Buddhism offers one of its most profound and transformative insights. It doesn't promise awakening in spite of our struggles, it reveals that awakening actually happens through them. Your stress, your frustration, your heartbreak, these are not interruptions to your spiritual path, they are the path itself. They are not barriers to wisdom, they are the raw, burning material from which wisdom is forged. That sharp irritation you feel in traffic, or the tension that arises during a difficult meeting? It's not a personal failure, it's a moment of practice. It's a mirror reflecting the truth of impermanence, of expectation, of craving. That anxious tightness you feel about the future? It's not just stress to be managed, it's a direct teaching about the nature of uncertainty, and an opportunity to find stability in something deeper than control. And that heartbreak, the one that cracked you open? That's the moment where the illusion of the solid, armored self begins to give way. Pain becomes the doorway. This is not mere poetic optimism. It is grounded in one of the most central teachings of the Buddha, dependent origination, paticcasamuppada. Nothing, not even our emotions, exists in isolation. Anger arises because of certain conditions, and so does fear, and so does sorrow. And when those conditions shift, the emotions fade away. They are not who we are, they are merely passing weather. By learning to observe this process directly, we stop being victims of our feelings and become witnesses, present, clear, and fully alive. Viktor Frankl once said that human beings can find meaning even in the midst of great suffering. Buddhism takes this idea even further, teaching that suffering itself can become the very material of awakening. It's not something to be escaped, not something to be endured until peace returns, but something to be understood deeply, until its true nature reveals itself as empty, conditioned, and impermanent. And that brings us to a critical question: what, then, is liberation? What is this so-called ultimate purpose? It's not simply healing. It's not merely calming the mind so that we can function better in the world. Liberation, as taught in the Four Noble Truths, is nirodha, the complete and remainderless cessation of craving, the extinguishing of the internal fire that fuels our suffering. It's not about fixing the self, it's about seeing that the self we cling to, this fixed, unchanging identity, is an illusion to begin with. This is the truth of anatta, non-self. In this freedom, the fever doesn't just subside, it vanishes completely at the root. And when the fever ends, there is not a you who is healed, there is only the absence of suffering. And in that absence, there is a vastness, a stillness that is not empty, but profoundly full. That is the freedom that the Buddha pointed to, not reserved for monks or confined to temples, but available here, now, in the very heart of your most human moments. If you enjoy these concepts, remember to like and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth. What happens when the surface and the depth of our being are no longer in conflict? What happens when we no longer live as two divided selves, one navigating the world and the other seeking truth, but as one whole, undivided presence? This is not a dramatic transformation marked by fireworks of enlightenment. It is something far more quiet, grounded, and deeply human. This integrated life does not arise from effortful striving or as a result of trying to become spiritual, moral, or wise. On the contrary, it emerges only when the illusion of a separate self softens, when the one who clings, resists, and controls begins to dissolve. What follows is a natural unfolding. Wisdom, panna, and compassion, karuna, arise not as lofty ideals, but as effortless responses to life. Such a person does not withdraw from the world. They still act, speak, build, and care. But their actions are no longer rooted in fear or self-identification. They may be a teacher, a parent, a gardener, or a nurse, but they no longer confuse the role with the self. They give themselves completely to the moment at hand, and yet they remain free, because they know that nothing can truly be held. Like someone building a sandcastle with full attention and love, they are not saddened when the tide comes in. The beauty was in the making, not the possession. And what remains of them when they are gone? In a world shaped by impermanence, anicca, what legacy can truly endure? Not one of fame or form, for all such things inevitably fade away. The real legacy is something far more subtle, a ripple in the stream of consciousness. Through their mindful presence, their quiet generosity, and their steady clarity, they touch others, sometimes without even knowing it. That influence spreads through the intricate web of dependent origination, not in their name, but as part of the Dharma moving silently through the world. This is not some distant ideal, it is already available to you. It doesn't require you to retreat from society or to become someone else. It begins in small, ordinary moments, the kind you often overlook. When you wash the dishes and truly wash the dishes, feeling the warmth of the water, seeing the shimmer of the soap, hearing the clink of porcelain, that is the path. When you listen to someone without rushing to respond, or filtering their words through your own opinions, you are already practicing. When your mind is no longer scattered across past regrets or future plans but rests fully in the act of living, you are meditating, not with effort, but with natural attention. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh called this the miracle of mindfulness, not because it is rare or extraordinary, but because it transforms the ordinary into the sacred. Your home, your desk, your daily walk, they are not distractions from practice, they are the practice itself. Each moment is an invitation to live from wholeness, not fragmentation. Each moment is both the path and the arrival. We've now journeyed through two profound layers of being human, the responsibilities we carry in this world, and the deeper freedom that comes from recognizing our true nature. At first, they may seem like opposites, duty and liberation, form and emptiness. But they are not in conflict. One is the role, the other is the awareness that gives the role meaning. One is the stage, the other is the understanding of the entire play. The deeper truth is this: we are not asked to choose between the two. The invitation of a human life is to live both fully, with clarity and integrity. To be the dedicated craftsman who also knows the clay is impermanent. To be a parent, a teacher, a worker, or a friend, wholeheartedly, and at the same time to remember that these roles are not who we are, but expressions of something vaster moving through us. And when this insight dawns, something quiet and life-changing begins to happen. We stop asking the anxious, outward-facing question that began this journey: what is my purpose? That question always points away from this moment, sending us searching for a role, a mission, a label, something to justify our existence. It makes us feel like purpose is something we must chase, something we do not yet have. But when we come home to ourselves, a much gentler, wiser question arises. One that doesn't look out into the future, but into the now. In this moment, in this exact situation, how can I act with awareness, with responsibility, and with kindness? This question doesn't promise status or success. But it brings something far deeper: presence. And as you live from that place, one moment, one breath at a time, the desperate search for a grand, external purpose begins to dissolve. Not because you've given up, but because you've seen through the illusion that you were ever separate from it. Purpose is not something you find at the end of a long journey. Purpose is what you become when you are fully awake in your life. You don't become it by building a greater version of yourself, by polishing an identity, or by chasing an ideal. You become it by letting go. Letting go of the idea that you are incomplete. Letting go of the belief that you must prove something to the world. And in that letting go, a great stillness opens. A spaciousness in which your life, just as it is, begins to sing. Not louder, but truer. Not more perfect, but more real. And that, quietly and without fanfare, is where your deepest purpose begins to bloom. You are no longer seeking it. You are living it. If this resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to Wisdom and Wealth for more insights on living a meaningful and fulfilling life. Thank you for joining us on this journey.